Associate Professor at Birmingham City University. The title of my presentation is Supporting a Sustainable Environment for Birds. Now, this study was primarily carried out or led by one of my students, who is a student at another university in the UK, University of Sheffield. Christabel is an ecologist. She's a landscape architecture, so which means this study was primarily carried out in the Sheffield region of UK. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be discussing the main highlights of the study or the key points that came out from carrying out the study. I would also put a good emphasis on what I call practical solutions towards addressing some of the outcomes that came out from the study. Now, the way of providing context for this study, I am certainly one that has a passion for promoting sustainability of our environment. And working alongside an ecologist, Christabel, we strive to explore measures on how to improve the sustainability of our environment. Yes, this study is primarily focused on birds, but inevitably, while we work towards improving the environment for birds, we will be working towards improving environment or environmental sustainability for humans. Therefore, through this study, what we set out to do was essentially to explore the sustainability of a selection of existing green spaces, which I'm going to be touching on a little while from now, and also identifying how we could support the bird that is under study, an iconic bird, which I'm again now in the next slide, I'll shed a bit some light on the characteristics or features of this bird. So the outcomes of exploring the selection of green spaces is to offer some recommendations on how we can further improve these green spaces for the sustainability of the bird under discussion. All right, so what I've done with this slide is to provide some background information on this iconic bird that is under study. Okay, the song thrush. On the left hand side is the purpose, what this bird is all about. I think it might be best to start with what I've got on in the middle, so which is about how this bird interacts with its environment and maybe other species around it. I think one of the things I would really want to draw out from this slide is that this is quite a shy, solitary bird. But it's important to also note that in terms of preference of where he likes to settle, is around damp woodland areas, which again drove the reason or the rationale behind the green spaces that we considered for the purpose of the study. Now, moving on to the purpose of the study, what we set out to do as an aim was to explore the suitability of a selection of green spaces. So to sort of measure the suitability in terms of the density of the tree in these green spaces, how suitable they are for the bird that is under study. And not just identifying the suitability of these green spaces, but also offering recommendations on how we can further promote or foster the sustainability of these particular green spaces for the bird that is under study. Now, what we pulled out, having carried out the study, was also to offer practical recommendations, like I said earlier, to the council, the Sheffield Council, on how they can further promote the sustainability or the habitat for this iconic bird. Well, with respect to methodology, sort of demonstrating our methodological stance. For this study, a quantitative or the quantitative methodological stance was assumed. Now, this enabled us to calculate the mean values for each tree species within those four green spaces. The four green spaces being the Harcourt Road, Crooks Valley Park, the Western Park, and the Pandarissa. We also had selection criteria for the data collection, but just before I get into that, just drawing on the objective behind the data collection. We wanted to determine the richness and abundance of the tree stock within each of these green spaces. Things around the evenness of it, the dominant tree species around there, and then the richness of these tree species. I would explain a bit more around these terms in the following slides. Now, the selection criteria for the data collection, we had two key selection criteria. The first one was the features of the tree. So it was important for us that the trees that we considered for the study measured 10 centimeters or thicker than that. The second selection criterion was the distance of the tree. So again, it was important that the trees were within 1 meter of either side. So these were the two selection criteria that were considered for the study. Now, drawing on the analytical procedure, the analysis that we carried out, in terms of preliminary, this slide sort of provides what I would call the preliminary analysis. Now, as you can see on this slide, one of the things we measured was the population for the entirety of the green spaces, and what we observed that it was estimated from 64 transient data set. And I think one of the important things on this slide is the total area of the green spaces, which totaled 640 meters squared. Something else to draw from the slide, you would see in terms of size, the Pandarissa green space measured approximately 154.52 kilometers squared, which is the largest. The smallest in terms of comparison is the Harcourt Road, which measured 6.41. But I think, as you can see from the slide, is that the bigger the green space, the higher the multiplication factor. Okay, for example, Pandorisa green space was the biggest in the total area, which means it had the largest multiplication factor in comparison to the other three. Well, now digging deep into the data or what came out from our measurements, what the slide showcases is the dominant tree species of each of the four green spaces that we considered for the study. Apologies for the smallness of what is there, but what I'll try to do is to explain what I've got on the slide. Now, we found some commonalities across the green spaces. For example, the Acer pseudoplatanus, was pretty much present across all green spaces, but in different measures. The top tree species, or the dominant tree species, for example, in the biggest green space, Pandorissa, is the Fraxinus excelsior. Okay, now comparatively, the top one in the Crooks Valley Park was the Acer pseudoplatanus, which was also, pretty much evident across other green spaces. But I think one of the key things to draw from this slide is, in as much as there were commonalities, the density or varied across the green spaces, and the particular tree composition in one green space did differ from the tree composition in another green spaces. So what we tried to do is to also check whether this was statistically significant. Okay, so now having now identified the dominant tree species across these four green spaces, and particularly because we identified that maybe a particular tree species that was in one green space, the dominant one was different from another green space. It became necessary for us to do a comparison across the four green spaces, and we found that there was statistical significance. But digging a bit more and being more specific in terms of that comparison, one of a number of things that we measured was things around the richness of the tree, of the dominant tree species, the evenness of the tree species, and of course the density. As you can see on the slide, what we've tried to do is to sort of differentiate them. So I've got a graph showing the density, the tree density, another graph showing the percentage of, okay, something also measured, which I didn't highlight, but you'd have picked up from the slide anyway, is the percentage of the fruiting trees. Now, it's interesting to note that in as much as Harcourt Road is the smallest in terms of total area, the fruiting trees, the composition of fruiting trees in Harcourt Road was the highest. Okay, fruiting trees is something that is specifically useful or advantageous in respect to food for sources for wildlife, which was the reason why we thought we explore that a bit more. On the further right at the bottom corner of the slide are the definition of the terms, which I thought would be helpful or useful for you to gain some understanding on these different parameters that we measure, the respect to the species richness, the species evenness, and the density. Okay, so I'll give us a moment to sort of possibly digest what I've got on the slide. It's quite a very busy slide, very comprehensive. So this is further comparison in the tree composition between the four green spaces, the Pandarisa, the Western Park, the Crooks Valley, and Harcourt Road. Okay, so okay, I'll give us a moment to sort of capture what I've got on the slide before I sort of draw our attention to maybe some of the key points on the slide. Okay, so a few key words on the slide. You know, if I start off with the Western Park, you will recall in terms of total area from a preceding slide that Western Park is the third one in terms of total area. Pandarisa is the top of the list. Cooks Valley is the second one in terms of size, the Western Park, and then of course the Harcourt Road. So the Western Park did, based on our analysis, had a record of the highest species of richness. You know, there were 18 different species there. But you know, Pandorisa pretty much followed straight away behind it with 17 species. So not surprising there, given hopefully the size of it. You know, there were other things that also came out. You know, if I draw our attention to the tree density, okay, um, the the higher the tree, then generally tree density is generally a good feature for birds. So that was one of the things we wanted to explore to see which of these green spaces, you know, provided some good richness around them, tree density. Um, so the Pandorisa and Crooks Valley Park, which are in terms of size the biggest, were determined to have the highest estimated tree density. I don't think there's much surprise there. Maybe because of the sizes of these parks or green spaces. Okay. Um, Notwithstanding, again, I'm going to draw our attention back to the fruiting trees, which is something that is very useful with respect to food sources for birds and for organisms. And you know, Harcourt Road and Western Park, which in respect to size, comparatively to the Pandarisa and Cooks Valley Park, might be smaller, but they still demonstrated something that is of good use in respect to sustainability for this iconic bird that is under discussion. At the top right corner, there are you know insight around the deciduous and evergreen trees. All the green spaces, the four of them, did um, demonstrate good ratio of the deciduous trees is as compared to evergreen trees. Okay, so I hope you're getting the picture now in terms of what we identified following analysis in terms of tree species, um, density of it, the richness of this, the evenness of it across these four green spaces. So there were a lot of positive things around across the four green spaces in context of sustainability for the song thrush, the iconic bird that is under discussion. So before I sort of provide some practical recommendations uh, for the council, I think one of the key or a couple of key highlights from the analysis are shown on the slide. Okay, we focused the key highlights on two lenses. The first one being the food availability or the resource availability in these green spaces. The second one was the habitat, the environmental availability. Now, with respect to food sources or food availability, I think what I've got on the slides on the bullet point are quite straightforward. You know, the green spaces did demonstrate abundance of fruit trees, you know, in different measures, fair enough, across the four of them, but there is an abundance of it. Um, the green spaces also demonstrate good environmental conditions for food sources, you know, things like earthworms for the iconic bird. So that's a positive. On the other lens, with respect to the second lens that we focused on for the purpose of the study, you know, a key highlight I would say is with respect to the environmental habitat availability. And I think again, what I've got on the slide are quite straightforward, very much explanatory. Um, Maybe I'll pick up on the second bullet point around the what we mentioned, if you recall from the two slides back, where we had the deciduous tree versus the evergreen tree. We did notice that the deciduous tree was more predominant across the four green spaces in comparison to the evergreen trees. Right, as I said earlier, right at the beginning of my presentation, when I provided a context and the purpose of the study, a, a driving objective of the study was to eventually, after our analysis, provide um, practical recommendations to Sheffield Council on how they can further promote sustainability um, of the iconic bird, the song thrush, under discussion. Now, the next two slides, this slide and the next one, there were key objectives that we had in mind in terms of putting together um, our our recommendations. Now, one of the objectives was to offer some insights or good insights around creating habitats for invertebrates. You know, that's a source of food, food availability for birds or an organism. The second one, in terms of what we wanted to draw on or pull out of the study, was in respect to improving the species evenness. How do we get to do it? That's one of the things we measured. And the other one was around encouraging a symbiosis between this iconic bird, the song thrush, and the local community. Okay, now so what I've shown on the slide is to highlight a key issue with respect to two of the green spaces on the slide, Harcourt Road and Crooks Valley Park. And then the next slide also highlights current issues with respect to the Pandorisa and the Western Park. So I'll give us a moment to sort of um, go read through what I've got as a current issue here and the future actions, you know, suggestions that the council may begin to consider with respect to promoting a sustainable environment um, for this bird and organisms, and also for the community, really. Okay, I think that there are things that we can actually can do, the actions, the future actions. One, planting of perennial planting underneath the tree plots. The diagrams are quite tiny, but what I've tried to do is also to signpost in terms of of visual representation of the future actions. I hope you can pick that up on the slide. Okay, so similar to the previous slide, what I've done again with the slide is to provide the current issues associated, you know, based on our analysis associated with the Western Park and Pandorisa, and offer some future practical actions we could the council really. So these are recommendations for Sheffield Council, but I think there are things that individuals can actually um, begin to act on with the council, the Sheffield Council leading on this. So similar to the previous slide, what I've tried to do here is also to link, make a connection visually to the future actions that are highlighted for these couple of green spaces. Okay, so this is my final slide, and it outlines different sources in alphabetical order that we consulted for the purpose of undertaking the study. Thank you for listening.